Coming up, happy Thanksgiving. As families gather for the holiday, Dr. Natalie will be here to answer your latest questions about the road to recovery.
My name is Andrina, and I'm 7 years old. I got my first shot, so can I play with my friends without masks, indoors and outdoors?
Then, 'tis the season. Could the Grinch steal your Christmas tree? The details ahead. We'll visit some Christmas tree farms across the country as growers warn there could be a limited supply. Also, balloon science. Just how are those gigantic balloons you see in the Thanksgiving Day parade made? We'll get the answer. And inspiring kids. These sisters are lending a helping hand at home, helping to care for their dad, who is one of the nation's wounded warriors.
I have to be like, Dad, did you take your meds? I have to do the stuff Mom does.
Their remarkable story coming up.
This is NBC Nightly News, Kids Edition.
Welcome back to Nightly News Kids Edition. I hope you guys are doing well, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We've got a fun lineup ahead, including the scientists we can't wait for you to meet. But we begin with one of the top stories we continue to follow in this program and my evening broadcast as well, and that's the pandemic. We received a bunch of new questions from you guys about the coronavirus vaccine and those booster shots the FDA and CDC just authorized for all fully vaccinated adults in the U.S. Joining us now in our Ask the Doc segment is our friend Dr. Natalie Azar. And Dr. Natalie, good to see you. Our first question comes from a young viewer in Virginia who is wondering about the COVID-19 vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11.
Hi, I'm Hendrix. I'm from Ashburn, Virginia. I'm 5 3/4. My question is, why does kids have to get a smaller dose than adults? Bye. I love Nightly News Kids Edition.
Great question, Hendrix. And I guess Dr. Natalie, he wants to make sure he's getting enough of the vaccine.
I know, right? That's such a good question, Hendrix. And I think that most of us thought that the reason that it was a lower dose is that kids are physically smaller than adults. And I think that that is a normal thing to think, but that's actually not really the whole story. It's a little bit more complicated than that, Hendrix, but basically, once you get to the age of around 12, 13, you start to handle vaccines kind of the same way that grown-ups do. But when you're younger, you handle the vaccine differently. Basically, think of the way your body is going to break it down, the way you break down food. And we know that kids your age don't need to have as much as the adult does to get the same really, really good immune response. And actually, they studied a lot of different doses in the trial, and they figured out that that smaller dose for your age group was just the right amount, kind of like the Goldilocks amount, not too little and not too much.
That's why it's so important they test these things before they make them available. Our next question comes from New York.
Hi, I'm Serena from New York, and I have a question about boosters. If we already have a lot of little superheroes in our body, why do we need boosters? What happens to the old superheroes that were already in our body? What happens to them? Bye, I love Nightly News Kids Edition.
Another terrific question. Dr. Natalie, what's your answer about those superheroes?
Such a good question. So those superheroes, we call them antibodies, and they are your first line of defense. That's what your body makes once you get a vaccine. But let's say you're a couple of months out from your vaccine and you haven't been exposed to the coronavirus. Those little superheroes are going to take a break. They're going to sort of like retreat back in the line of the defense, if you will, but they're laying and they're waiting in case you ever do get exposed to that coronavirus. But because we know they are so important, if you're exposed, that's why we do the booster, so that those superheroes wake back up and get to the front of the line again so that you can be protected and you won't get sick.
Okay, and our last two questions come from two sisters.
My name is Andrina, and I'm 7 years old. I got my first shot, so can I play with my friends without masks, indoors and outdoors? Hi, I'm Ivanka, and I'm 4 years old. When my vaccine will be available? We love NBC Nightly News Kids Edition. Bye!
So glad you guys are watching. Dr. Natalie, what about it?
So look, after you've had one shot, you're already on your way to being really well protected. But we do say that you're not fully protected until 2 weeks after your second dose. So you can start playing with your friends, but I'm sure mom and dad are going to tell you, to wait a couple weeks longer before you can really, really feel super protected. Regarding your little sister, we hope to get really good information about your age group by the end of the year, think Christmas time or New Year's, and hopefully, fingers crossed, in the beginning of 2022, we'll start to be able to vaccinate kids who are 4 and younger.
All right, Dr. Natalie Azar, really great to have you on. Thank you so much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Lester. You too.
Well, this week marks the Thanksgiving holiday, and guessing some of you might have watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade here on NBC. I saw all those fun balloons, but did you ever wonder how those gigantic parade balloons are made? Here to tell us how is aerospace engineer KG Shojobi. And KG, first off, tell us briefly about the science behind those big parade balloons. Is it similar to what kids see at birthday parties?
Hello, Lester. Thank you for having me. And yes, it is very similar when it comes to how a giant balloon at a parade floats. It's the same thing as a balloon, which I happen to have just off camera right here. All it comes down to is, does the balloon with its string and the gas that's inside of it weigh less than the air that sits underneath it that is pushing it up? That's all it comes down to, just a difference in forces and pressure.
All right. Well, the Ada Twist scientist balloon flew in this year's Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Ada Twist, of course, the pint-sized scientist in the Netflix series. Tell us about this balloon.
Ada's balloon is about 29 feet wide by 41 feet long by 51 feet high. That's as tall as about a 5-story building. And Ada's balloon was made to look just like the Ada Twist that we see in the Netflix show, Ada Twist Scientist. To get it made, we first started with sketches on paper. We wanted to draw out Ada, and then from there we created a couple of 3D models. One of them is digital and stays on the computer, and that one we used to get the painting colors right. The next 3D model is a physical one that we could use for scientific analysis when it comes to, wind flow and just density and things like that. After analyzing the 3D models, they then cut out pieces of polyurethane. They heat seal them together and then add in the inflation points. And once the balloon is all put together, it goes off for testing, where they fill it up with helium and just make sure that it floats the right way and stays up the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and that leads to my next question. We talked about the balloons kids see at parties. How do these balloons fly? Same idea, helium?
Absolutely. So this is the fun part. It's all about physics. Like I was saying earlier, it is a difference in forces. So there are a couple forces that act on a balloon. Once again, here's the one that I've got here. There are the forces of gravity pulling it down, force of tension, which is the tension in this string, kind of pulling it down as well. And then there's a force of buoyancy, which is, again, the air pushing it up. And the force of buoyancy has a lot to do with the displacement of the air around the balloon. And what I mean by displacement is this. I've got a couple other things here to help with my illustration. You've got some water in a glass. I colored it blue so it's easier to see. These glasses have the same amount of water in them. When I put, let's call them 3 little balloons, inside one of these glasses, you're going to see that the water level is now different. It's higher in this one. That's because the 3 little balloons have displaced the water in the glass, kind of pushing it into new space to make room for the balloons. That's what a balloon is doing in the air. It has displaced the air around it. So long as the air that's been displaced by the balloon weighs more than the balloon itself, the balloon will float.
And how does it not fly away?
Ooh, very important question. It's the string. So just like how this string here on this balloon, or any balloon you might have at a birthday party, the Ada Twist balloon that we saw at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, because it's so big, it's got a bunch of strings. And I call them strings, but they're actually like really thick ropes. And each of those little ropes is held by a person who walks along the parade route with the balloon to make sure that she doesn't fly away.
Hard to believe that all started with someone just making a drawing of this balloon. Finally, you're an aerospace engineer. Tell us why science is so important for kids and their future.
Oh, that's a great question. Science helps us understand the world all around us. It can sound like an intimidating thing, especially when somebody, calls me an aerospace engineer. It sounds kind of crazy, but what it all comes down to is just being enthusiastic about understanding how the world around me works, whether it comes to aerospace or whether it comes to other kinds of sciences, like how a simple balloon floats. Kids can have a lot of fun with just those different kinds of things.
Well, it is terrific, and it's terrific that you're sharing your passion with kids everywhere. KG Shoujo B, thank you so much for being on with us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Lester. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Speaking of the holiday season, some Christmas tree growers are warning about a possible tight supply of Christmas trees this season, thanks in part to climate change. Our pal Kerry Sanders takes a closer look.
If getting your Christmas tree feels like living in your own Christmas movie, then this year there may be some unexpected hijinks.
I would highly suggest this year, especially more than others, to get your tree early.
Christmas tree farmers say their harvest is smaller this year, but they're not blaming it on the pandemic.
There was some underproduction during the recession years, 2009, 2010, 2011. So fast forward the clocks, 8, 9, 10 years, and we're kind of paying the price today for the underproduction then.
Sellers say a strained supply chain also plays a role.
Trucks are a challenge. There's no question about it. The supply chain has got some major bumps in it right now.
Adding to the shortages, Mother Nature.
This is damage from the 110-degree heat.
This summer, a heat wave in Oregon scorched saplings and ruined thousands of trees on the Schmidlin family farm. There were also droughts in some places and wildfires. Coleman's Christmas tree farm in Delaware says this year is going to be extra tricky.
They do have enough trees for this year, but you got to get here early.
So for families who want to get their trees early this year, tree farmers say there are some extra measures you should take to keep the trees healthier longer.
When you buy it, around Thanksgiving, you may not put it up for 2 weeks. Get it in a bucket of water outside, preferably in the shade, out of the sun, and then when you go to put it up, make a fresh cut on it, get it in the stand, and make sure there's always water in it.
Did you know it takes years and lots of hard work to grow Christmas trees?
I think young people would find it interesting that we grow Christmas trees on farms. They are not taken out of the woods or forests, because that does make you worry, gosh, should I really cut down a real Christmas tree? But because we're growing them on farms, we're constantly replanting. Typically, it's at about an 8-year process. Now, from the time it's a seed that comes out of the cone, we've got about 3 years of work to do in a nursery. And then it goes to the farmer. He plants it on his farm. The other interesting thing, as we're growing these trees, they're home to a lot of different wildlife species, habitats for birds, rabbits, and that can make you feel good as well.
Among the most popular varieties of Christmas trees,
there are more than 20 different species you can take a look at. It's all regional. The big species, the popular ones, like the Douglas fir, Fraser fir, noble fir, they might be grown in a certain area, but those are grown in such large quantities that we ship them everywhere. But some are very locally grown. In the South, they grow a very different Christmas tree, something like the Leland cypress or the Murray cypress. So it's kind of fun to go locally and see what you can find.
To prevent the Grinch from stealing your holiday, experts say shop early.
We do have a tight supply for sure, and there are some issues. We will have Christmas trees in every market. Do a little research before you go to select your tree, and then be open-minded. Maybe you want to look at something different this year. It's a great year to try a new tree and be maybe a little flexible on the height of the tree that you're going to purchase.
Carrie, thanks so much, and really good to know. And Christmas tree growers stress the importance of watering that tree often. Finally, in our Inspiring Kids series, our friend and Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie has the story of two sisters who are lending a helping hand at home.
She can be very sneaky when she wants to. She got stole candy from my bedroom without me knowing and then got caught.
I have a big sugar tooth.
She's got a giant sweet tooth.
Something about Gabby is when I need her, she's always there for me. Thank you.
10-year-old Gabby Rodriguez and her 7-year-old sister Ava are thick as thieves, doing what most sisters like to do, giggling, playing, helping each other with chores, and of course, dreaming of owning a pony. You guys like horses?
I love horses. Mommy said if we move, I can get a horse.
Oh! That would be me. What about you,
a
horse?
pony.
A pony and a horse.
Her
What do we think?
Her name would be Peppermint.
A seemingly carefree childhood, but they are also the daughters of one of our nation's wounded warriors.
Girls, if daddy flops like a fish, what do you do?
Call 911 and then call you.
Right, call 911 and call me, right?
Their dad, Jorge, a Navy corpsman, was wounded in an explosion while serving in Iraq back in 2007. He suffered a traumatic brain injury and since then has had seizures and post-traumatic stress disorder. His wife, Jessica, quit her job as a hospice nurse to care for him full-time.
You try so hard to protect your kids from everything. You don't want them to see their dad any way other than a hero, or, you know, being able to walk and talk and play and dance with them.
Girls, how do you know if it's a good day or a bad day?
We ask what's the weather like today. And if he says it's sunny, we know he's happy. But if he says it's stormy and rainy, we know he's not feeling really good.
So on a stormy day, you know to give him a little rest and space.
Yeah. And hugs.
And lots of love and hugs. It can be a heavy load for such young children to understand why their dad is sick, even when he doesn't look sick.
Gab, why don't you tell them what you say to your friends when you talk about dad's boo-boo on his brain?
It's like a bruise. As soon as you get it, it's really hurts. Sometimes it leaves a scratch or a mark, but others, it just disappears. It's like it's not there. But you know you've had it. You know it's been there.
That explains it perfectly. You can have something hurt inside and it might not show on the outside. Gabby and Ava are two of over 2 million children living with a disabled veteran parent, helping with their caregiving.
They have to do the stuff mom does, like, hey, dad, did you take your meds? If we go out to eat, I'm like, did you bring your wallet? Did you bring your keys? Did you lock the door?
When we talk about military caregivers, a lot of times we're talking about the wife for good reason, but it's a family affair.
These kids need support. They need the ability to connect with other kids like them. They need to know that they're not alone.
The Rodriguezes have found help through Hidden Heroes, which provides information on resources to help the whole family.
It's very calming.
Like Gallup NYC in Queens, New York, which provides therapeutic horseback riding for veterans and their families. And doesn't it lighten your burden, Mom, a little bit when you know the kids are also being cared for, having that burden carried a little bit for you as well?
When your kids can tell you they're happy, when they can tell you that horse therapy is working for them, or they meet other military families and they can say, yeah, me too, and let me show you what can help. That's where the moment says to me that we have made it as a community.
You've come a long way, haven't you?
Yes. It wasn't just me, it was the family, you know. You have to let yourself know, you know what, we need help. I need help.
Reaching for help requires its own strength.
Yeah.
A strength and pride his young daughters already possess.
What makes me proud of my dad is he doesn't take no for an answer, and if someone says no to us, he's like, excuse me, our girls can do anything.
I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what happened. That's what makes our family so different from the rest of the world. That's what makes us, us.
All right, Savannah, thanks so much, and really nice having you on Kids Edition. That's going to do it for us. Parents, just a reminder, if your child has a question about any topic in the news, email a video to us at nightlynewskids@nbcuni.com, and we'll try to answer them in an upcoming program. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Nightly Kids. Thanks for watching, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. Also, remember to take care of yourself and each other. So long.